The other day I posted a reel saying that Jesus never refused healing to anyone who came to him for it. And that shows us God's will for us, especially in the new covenant. And I had some commenters ask some really understandable questions, so I'm going to do my best to address those. One person said, dude, what about Lazarus? What about John chapter 11? So I'm going to basically read my response to this. First of all, Lazarus did not come to Jesus in person, in pain, asking for healing, and then have Jesus say, no, you need to suffer a while longer. You'll learn something. It'll glorify me. That's not what happened. What happened in John chapter 11 is messengers come to Jesus to tell him, Lazarus is sick to the point where dude's going to die. You need to come do something about it. And then Jesus waits another 2 days before he moves. So it kind of seems like he chose not to. But let's trace the timeline here. See, at the time, Jesus was in Bethany across the Jordan, or what some people call Bethabara. Most accounts put this about a day's journey away from Bethany where Jesus was. So when he finally does come to where Lazarus was entombed, John 11 says Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. If you track that timeline backwards, a day for the messengers to get to Jesus, 2 more days he spent in Bethabara, and then a day's journey for him to get to Bethany, it times out that Lazarus most likely died while the messengers were still on the road to alert Jesus in the first place. They wouldn't have known that, but supernaturally, Jesus probably already knew that. Or at the very least, the Father told him, pause, don't do anything yet, and he just chose to obey. But again, Lazarus was already dead by the time the messengers got to him. They just didn't know that. Or at the very least, he would have been dead by the time Jesus had been able to get to him. So if Lazarus was already dead, there really was no rush. But still, why would Jesus wait that extra 2 days? See, there's a Jewish tradition among certain sections of the Midrashic tradition. I don't know a lot about this, but I've heard some people talk about it. There's this idea that the spirit of a person sort of hangs around the grave, hangs around the body for about 3 days after death. Now, some sections of them believe it's up to 7 days, but some believe it's 3. So that allows for the possibility of resurrection to happen in that window. So by Jesus raising Lazarus on the 4th day after death, he demonstrated power beyond what was even thought possible. So, saying this isn't putting fault on anybody who's dealt with it. And I said this in my last reel. It's not saying you should feel bad if you've dealt with an issue. I have dealt with issues, sometimes for a way longer time than I wanted to. But again, there is no place where someone comes to Jesus asking directly, will you heal me? Where Jesus says, no, you need to suffer a while longer. He denies them. He always showed the love of God to them. Now, there were some other good questions that were asked. I'm going to address those over time, but that's the first one.